In this video, you're going to get introduced to the concept of branching in version control. So what is branching? So far, we have been working in one single branch, and that's the default branch, which is the master branch. So all our changes, our commits, everything was happening in this branch. Now, let's suppose that in your project, you are developing a new feature, and you want the development of the core product to continue while you are developing the feature on the side. So to do this, you can create one extra branch where you're gonna do some developments, which is gonna be outside the master branch. So let's call this branch new feature. So the two branches are going to be completely separate. But when you create this branch for the first time, you're going to import all the content from your master branch's commits. So now we've got the snapshots just from there, and we are ready to make our changes without affecting the master branch. So if you've got a team of developers, you can allocate resources which will work on this branch only. So they will be able to make updates, commits, and so on only on this branch. And at the same time, you'll be making changes and commits in the master branch. Now, a quick comment about the first commit in the new feature branch. In this branch, you will still be able to access the past commits which you imported from the master branch. So when you import that snapshot, you also import all the past commits which belong to the master branch. So you can revert to any of those if you like. All right, so at this stage, let's suppose that you are happy with the content of the new feature branch and you'd like to incorporate it in the master branch. So here comes a new concept which is called merging. So you'll be able at this stage to merge the content of the new feature branch with the contents of the master branch. And the consequence is going to be a brand new snapshot, which includes both your code from the master branch and your code from the new feature branch. And now you can continue your work making changes and commits as normal. And you can also delete this new branch if you don't need it anymore. Now let's go back to our projects folder and apply the concept of branching and merging using the command line. So let's check the list of branches that we have got available at the moment using the git branch command. So we've got only one branch, and that's the default branch. It's in green, meaning it's the active one, and also it's got an asterisk there, meaning that this is the current branch. So now let's create a new branch using git branch followed by the name of the branch. So let's call it new feature. So now if we try git branch, you can see two branches. That's the active one, and this one is the new one. So let's switch to that branch. So the command to use is git checkout followed by the name of the branch you would like to switch to. So if we try git branch now, you can see that the active one is new feature. All right, now let's make some changes to our project and commit them inside this branch. So I'm going to create a new file, file4.txt, and let's add one line inside this file. And let's also add one line inside file3. So now let's stage all files and let's commit our changes. Now, if you check git log, you can see the history of commits in both branches. So the head at the moment is pointing to the new feature branch, and we've got one commit, and these are the changes that we have just made, and the other commits belong to the master branch. And if you want, you can use the down arrow to check all commits. So colon Q to quit, And now if you switch to the master branch using git checkout followed by the name of the branch, you'll see that now you will get the content of the master branch. So let's have a look. And here we go. So that's the contents of the master branch. If you switch to the new feature branch, then you'll see in your working environment the content corresponding to that branch. Now let's make one more change inside our new branch. So I'm going to create a new file and call it file5.txt. I'm going to add one line there. And I'm going to commit the changes after staging all the files. Alright, now let's suppose that you are happy with the changes which you made inside the new branch and you want to merge them into the master branch. So to do that, first, let's switch to the master branch using git checkout. So now you are inside the master branch. You can check that by using git branch. So this is the active branch. And now to merge the changes that you made inside the new branch, you use git merge followed by the name of the branch. So this will merge the contents of the new branch with the contents of the master branch. Let's try again with the correct name. Okay. So you can see here the changes which took place for each of these files. Now if you try git log, you can see that Git is pointing at the moment to the master branch, which has been merged with the new feature branch. And in the history of commits, you can also see the commits made inside the new feature branch. So now, if you are happy with everything and you have merged the two branches, you are ready to delete the new branch. So all you need to do is use git branch -d followed by the name of the branch. Now we are able to use this command because we merged the new branch inside or with the master branch. If you haven't merged a branch and you still want to delete it, then you need to use capital D instead, because this one wouldn't work. So let's try this. So our branch has been deleted, and now if I check git branch, I've got only one branch. And if I check git log, I can see that Git is pointing to the master branch, and you can also see the past commits which took place inside the new feature branch before it got deleted. Hopefully this gave you a good understanding of the concepts of branching and merging in version control. Now, before we move to the next video, I'd like to introduce you to gitignore. Gitignore is simply a file which is called gitignore, which you can place inside your project. And inside this file, you can add paths of files which you don't want to track. So for instance, let's say that we've got a file called keys.txt, which contains some sensitive information about your app with some API keys, for example. Let's say that it's got an API key, which looks like this. All right. And you don't want to track this. And also you don't want to share this key if you push your project to a public repository later on. So all you need to do is add the path of your file to gitignore. So let's add a comment like this, saying do not share keys, and let's add the path, so keys.txt in our case. So now without the path, let's see what happens. So if I try git status, I can see 2 untracked files. Now, if I add this file keys.txt to git ignore, and I try git status, then it's just ignored that file. And it's not showing up anymore as untracked. Now, if I do git add of all files, and then try git status, then I can see that I've got a new file, git ignore, but it doesn't say anything about keys.txt because we are ignoring it. So now if I commit the changes using git commit, then in the changes, it won't say anything about keys.txt because that's inside git ignore. Alright, in the next video, you're going to get introduced to GitHub.